Happy Thursday, everybody. We are back live on BZBGEAR Talks on BZB TV, on our Vimeo, our LinkedIn, and our YouTube. Joining me today, I've got Joel Cruz from the BZB TV studio, and we have a special guest from Barco that we'll be getting into here in a minute. But in the meantime, Joel, what's been going on, brother?
Nothing. Just or not nothing, but a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm just glad the heat wave has kind of passed. It's just regular heat now here in the Bay Area and in Sacramento. Yeah, I mean, other than that, just the kids are they have soccer camp right now throughout the week, so they've been busy. They had basketball camp actually a couple of weeks ago. Now they got soccer camp. So we're trying to keep them busy off the electronics as much as we can.
Yeah.
Although I do enjoy gaming with them too. You know, when we have free time, I'm still a big gamer. But have you been keeping track of the World Cup, the Women's World Cup?
No, I was actually going to bring that up since, you're talking about your kids doing some soccer, but, we do have the Women's World Cup going on. I haven't been paying too much attention to it, but outside of just basically keeping up with the U.S. team. So right now it looks like we're leading our group in the U.S. So we're in first place.
I think they just tied with the Netherlands.
Yeah,
they just or New Zealand.
Yeah, 2 games played, 1 tie, 1 win. Netherlands is the same, 2 games played with a tie and a win as well. But I believe we are technically ahead of Netherlands, so that's kind of nice.
Oh, nice.
I'll have to talk to my cousin a little bit about it next week when I'm in Austin because he's a big soccer guy. So
okay,
yeah.
I know a lot of people here. Our bosses over here, they're big soccer guys. I'm more into the other soccer or the other football, American football. But no, the World Cup. I haven't really been paying attention as well, but I am going to start now because I learned that my native Philippines, I think it's their first time in this tournament or one of the first times, and they played against the host New Zealand, and they won a couple nights ago, 1-0. And what's interesting is the girl that scored the goal for the Philippines. She actually graduated from the high school I went to, Milpitas High.
Oh, nice.
Shout out MHS, Milpitas High School, woo, class 99. But she graduated there 2015. And yeah, it's pretty awesome to see. I was texting my dad, hey, you see Philippines, they're winning right now. And so the next game is Sunday, midnight our time. So definitely going to start paying more attention and seeing their journey through this tournament, along with the U.S., of course. Yeah, so go U.S., go Philippines.
Yeah, well, speaking of, I did mention that we're going to be in Austin next week. So if you guys are in the Texas area, if you're maybe in the Austin locals, definitely come out and see us. We're going to be at Texas Association of Broadcasters. And that kind of brings me to something that we were doing yesterday. We were having a little bit of a meeting, right? And talking a little bit about some new products, but a little bit also about what's on the road here for our trade shows. But if only there was a software that could maybe help us out with meetings and, loving meetings. So I think that might be a great way to bring in our friend Dan Root from Barco here. Dan, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
Great.
Thanks for asking. So
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan, I did mention a little bit about Barco, but before we get into Barco, let's go ahead and get to know you a little bit. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself, who you are, and basically what you do?
Sure. So my name is Dan Root. I am with Barco as leading the Global Strategic Alliance Program, as well as serving as our thought leader and spokesperson for the Meeting Experience Group. And the Meeting Experience Group consists of the ClickShare portfolio. I just joined Barco pretty recently. Prior to that, I was at Wainhouse Research as a senior analyst covering 3 areas of technology. So I was covering wireless casting and conferencing, which is where ClickShare lives, as well as interactive touch displays, and visual collaboration software. So Miros, Murals, Zoom whiteboards of the world. Prior to that, I was at a visual collaboration vendor and left there as the director of market strategy and research. And I also have some AV background as far as I used to work for a company called Revo Labs that got acquired by Yamaha and is now Yamaha UC. So I've kind of spent a fair amount of my career geeking out over hardware and software technology and how we can try to use it, so to speak, in the real world.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of a recap of who Barco is and what Barco does?
Sure. So Barco is based in Belgium, and we started within projector sort of a segment, and we still do that for high-end residential as well as in corporate use. We also have a healthcare business, and then ClickShare portfolio, which is around meeting experiences. So the ClickShare conferencing line, which is what we are talking about most of the time nowadays, is a device that allows you to come into any room, plug in what we call our button, and press the ClickShare button on there, and it will allow you to take control of the microphone, the speakers, and the camera, as well as the display within that space to share your content and then also run a call. So essentially giving you the freedom of using your personal device in any conference room, and also providing a consistent experience so that you know what you're expecting when you walk into a room, and you have the confidence to be able to leverage that and get down to the work at hand. There's also a fair amount of rooms now that I think you guys have probably heard of, Microsoft Teams rooms or Zoom rooms, and they're great for being able to manage the room and what's in the room and the devices. But it can be a challenge when you're trying to meet with somebody, say a customer or a supplier that uses a different platform other than what the room is assigned to. And there are some workarounds that are out there as far as direct guest join and things like that. But for folks that are in a hybrid setting, they're probably not using that technology very often or that workflow very often. So it can become very confusing for folks pretty quickly. So we find that, giving a good alternative or, kind of a dual approach to a conference room allows for everyone who walks in, whether it's a guest that's coming into your office or maybe an employee who's based somewhere else in the world that doesn't have the approvals on the network in that specific office, are able to still run their meetings, not get delayed or bogged down in trying to figure out how to use the room technology.
Yeah, we actually had the pleasure. I don't think Joel did, but myself and Flo got to get over to your guys' booth at Infocom. So it was a fantastic looking booth. It was pretty cool, and just kind of get a look and a feel for some of the technology and how it works. Johan was fantastic, by the way. Love the guy.
Johan is fantastic. I gotta say, he is the brains behind the operation. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Infocom was a great showing for us. It was awesome to see so many people back at the show. I've been going to Infocom for years, and during the COVID period, it was a shell of the show it usually is. And even last year, things were building, but it felt like it was mostly the industry guys, us getting together, having a beer, talking about what's going on in the industry, but there wasn't as much end user presence. And then this year, it felt like that really came back full swing. You had a lot of decision makers, heads of IT, and folks walking around asking questions, saying, hey, I've either delayed putting a project into place, or we're trying to figure out exactly how to navigate this new hybrid reality and make sure that everything still adheres to InfoSec and all the things that we need to make sure don't leak out of our processes and our databases. So it was a really good show from our perspective, and I'm sure if you guys were at the booth, you saw it was a lot of hustle and bustle throughout the week.
It was very packed. It was extremely packed when we got there. We didn't want to stay too long because we didn't want to waste too much of Johan's time, but it was really good to meet him and kind of get and the ability to learn more about the technology, but also share the technology with our audience. Really was the main goal from that. But it was my first Infocom. So from my perspective, it was completely different because my lens is it's just NAB. I've been to NAB before, and so I'm used to NAB being kind of a mix between kind of end user base and very, very high end user base. And there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of anything in the middle at NAB. It's kind of like one or two of those things. And then Infocom kind of felt like it would live somewhere in the middle, where it's really just super industry focused, very much all about just delivering to dealers, distributors, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's the experience you've had with Infocom, but
I've been to NAB as well, and I will say NAB has a little more flash and pizzazz with some of the things that you get to play with as far as the tech is concerned, being a fair amount of the broadcasting offerings are there. So I've had a great time at NAB, kind of just checking out and geeking out on things that are there. Infocom, I would agree. There's a focus on the industry or on the specific industry itself. And I think that's mostly because of the types of vendors that you have there. Whereas at NAB, you have broadcast, and broadcast can really be applied to a lot of different areas as far as different types of companies, different workflows that would happen within it. Whereas Infocom is, pretty heavily entrenched in the enterprise communications realm, and really bringing together the solutions in meeting rooms and in workspaces to make sure that folks can get done what they're assigned. So it's a little bit, though I will say a ton of vendors have cool gear to play around with, and I always find myself not having enough time on the floor at Infocom. I will say that NAB has a little more of the glitz and glam, shall we say, as far as fun things to get into.
Yeah, I think on that end, like one of the things that always stands out to me is the DJI booth, because DJI always brings something crazy. And I think this last year at NAB they had it was a giant drone cage where you could fly their drones around, and it was so cool. But are there any other trade shows that Barco is going to be attending this year?
Yeah, so we always attend Infocom and ISE, and ISE is located in Barcelona now. That will be in January. Other than that, for this fall, we're going to be attending the first ever UC Expo Austin event that's going to be happening in, I believe, September 13th and 14th. Don't quote me on those dates, but I know it's that week. And that's the first time that they've stepped out of the UK. That's typically a really big show that happens in the fall. Again, very focused on workplace communications and enterprise communications. And so we're super excited to be heading down to Austin for that. I mean, anytime that we can get out of doing shows in Vegas and in Orlando, not to knock either of those cities, they're great cities, but once you've done 24 shows there over the years, it's like, okay, time for a different place, different venue. So we're excited about that. We will also be attending the UC Expo that is in the UK, and that's going to be early October. You'll also see us at the Gartner Symposiums, both in the US, which is in Orlando, as well as later in November in Barcelona. And we will also be at GITEX in Dubai in October, which I'm excited about as well. I've never been to Dubai, so that'll be a new one.
I was going to say, that sounds like it'd be pretty fun to go to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one for sure. I think that's most of our big events for the rest of the year. We'll, of course, be at regional events, shows that are hosted by our distributor partners, as well as our resale partners and things in different regions across the globe. So there's always something that you can find a Barco set up at. It's just about connecting with the folks that are local to you to find out when and where we'll be there.
Joel, are we going to any of those? I think ISE, I know for sure we're going to, right?
Just ISE, yeah, in Barcelona, and then IBC, the broadcasting show in Amsterdam. That one is coming up next, I believe, in September. That one is coming up pretty. It's going to come pretty fast.
September in Amsterdam is a pretty nice area. I got to say, nice time of the year to be there.
It is. Totally, man. We went last year. The IBC last year's show was our first time at IBC, and just experiencing it all. And yeah, just a beautiful place, beautiful people. Everyone was very hospitable. A lot nicer than what I experienced sometimes in America. There are some times there, because they ride a lot of bikes over there. It's a main transportation, motorcycles or bicycles. So yeah, there are many times where we were just walking at night or during the day, and we're actually in the bike lanes. It doesn't look like it. It looks like a regular walkway, but there's so many bike lanes, and they were just so courteous, ringing the bell, no one cursing or, just like, please move out the way. So
it's certainly not like traversing New York City. certainly a little better than having somebody flip the bird at you and yell some obscenities here and there. I've spent a fair amount of time in Amsterdam over the years, usually for ISE, because that's where it was prior to moving to Barcelona. And I have to say, I think September would be more enjoyable than the end of January. But I've been trying to push this idea that I think Infocom and ISE need to swap when they do their shows, because I think Infocom would be so much better in either Orlando or Vegas in January than it is in June. And I would love to see Barcelona take the end of May, early June as being when ISE is held, just because then we'd be hitting the best of all the weather versus going to Barcelona in January, which is still beautiful compared to me. I'm outside of Boston, so I'll take an upgrade on the weather anytime in January. Last year I was there, and everyone else has like parka coats on, hats, gloves, and I'm like walking around in a t-shirt and shorts, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "It's 60 degrees out. I don't know what's wrong with all of you, but this is warm. This is not cold." So, but unfortunately, so far, Avixa has not taken very kindly to my suggestion. I'm like, "I'm just trying to make the show better, guys. I'd make it my vacation if it was the right time of year there."
No, that was the one obstacles, was the Infocom just, last month in Orlando, just that humidity, I mean, you said you're from Boston or?
Yep, Boston area.
So, I mean, it gets a little humid there, right? So you're kind of used to that. California, we're here just the dry heat. So I had to prepare myself for all that humidity. It's in your face,
It doesn't matter where Infocom is, whether it's Vegas, whether it's Orlando. You're having to deal with immense heat one way or the other. In Orlando, you walk outside and you feel like you just took a shower before you get into the next building. Vegas, you walk outside, you sweat a ton while you walk, but by the time you get to the next building, you're already dry and you're like, this just doesn't make any sense to me. But either way, it's always really hot for Infocom.
Yeah. Well, I have a question from the stream here, and it is:
Sure.
Is Barco exploring any unique use cases outside of conferencing and healthcare?
So I would say that yes, we definitely are. We're trying, especially within the ClickShare portfolio, we want to be at the center of the meeting experience, and there are a lot of different ways to kind of handle that. There's things from different form factors for our product and the way that it's distributed, and also, different engagements as far as how do we optimize your meeting experience, both in room and out of room. I don't have any major announcements today on this call, but I would say, stay tuned. And we definitely have a few things coming down the line here for the end of the year. And especially at ISE, we'll have a really big announcement to make while we are in Barcelona for that show. So stay tuned. I'm sorry that I can't spoil any of the news here today, but as we all do, I have a boss that would not take kindly if I decided to get out of the bag too early. But yes, we are always thinking about how it is that we can work towards solving more use cases, optimizing the experience with technology in the workplace, regardless of location. And a big focus for us is how do we really try to get technology out of the way? How do we make it so as simple as possible for you to be able to leverage all the different pieces of the puzzle that are already there in your workplace, and make sure that you feel that it's consistent and easy to walk into all the different areas of your business and be able to conduct the work at hand.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer to that question. So let's go ahead and dive into the meat and potatoes of this.
Sure.
We'll just do. Why don't you do a little bit of a quick recap on Barco ClickShare? Because I know that's kind of where our audience is probably going to live the most. It's going to be ClickShare.
Yeah. So the ClickShare portfolio started a little over a decade ago, and we started really within just casting. So I come into a meeting space, I want to plug in one of our buttons, press that button, and make it so that my desktop shares on the screen that's at the front of the room. And we did that very well for close to a decade. And then around the time just before COVID actually happened, we had really started to work on, all right, we've seen a lot of video enablement, and so we need to have something that's closer to being able to take over all of the different elements within the conference room, so that you're, if you're hosting a meeting, you're not just showing it on the display in the room, but you need a better angle than just your laptop camera for that space, so that everybody knows where they are in the room, and you're able to see as the far end, who's there and what's happening, and how folks are moving within a meeting space. So we introduced the conferencing line, or the CX line, of our products right around the beginning of COVID, and the timing ended up being correct for that. Not that anything would be positive. I would never want another global pandemic again. I think we all drove ourselves crazy being trapped in our houses for months on end. But the timing did align, especially with coming back to hybrid work, in the sense that we are able to really provide a solution that gives a hybrid workflow a seamless experience. And so since that, we've rolled out, we have the CX20, the CX30, and the CX50, depending on what rooms you're looking to outfit. We actually just introduced this year the CX50 Generation 2, and the reason we did that was to be able to support dual displays, so 2 different displays within the room, whether they're side by side or maybe a little bit of spacing between them. We also now support 21:9 as of this summer aspect ratio, and that's really because we're seeing a big push from Microsoft on front row, as well as seeing that 21:9 aspect ratio is a better fit in a lot of meeting rooms, because it gives you more of the digital real estate to the left and the right, so you're able to really pull up multiple screens or multiple windows on that display, and also it cuts down the height a little bit versus 16:9, and as I'm sure you guys have seen before, if you go into a room that has an 86-inch 16:9 display and it's touch enabled, you have some of the folks like jumping to hit the very top of the screen. Not a really pleasant experience there. So the 21:9 really allows for that top and bottom to come in a little bit, so it makes it a little bit more accessible for folks as they're going through their day-to-day. And then also the CX50 Gen 2 also allows for meeting switching, which is to say, if you have a Microsoft Teams room or a Zoom room, we work in conjunction with the devices that you've got there. So whether it's a Rally Bar or Rally Bar Mini, or a Poly X30 or X50 model, or X70, and now the X52 that's just come out, we're able to allow you to sit within the Microsoft Teams environment during the day. But if there comes a point in time where you say, hey, I need to make a call on Google Meet, or I need to make a call with another platform partner that is not Microsoft Teams, I'm able to just plug in my button, press it, and I'm able to switch that Teams room over to what we call BYOM, or bring your own meeting sort of capabilities. And then one other feature that we really like about that solution is the fact that if you're already in a Teams call and you're running and you've got stuff to share, and let's say you haven't joined the call, so to speak, off of your laptop, or you're a guest and don't necessarily have access to join the call, you can just plug the button in, hit the button, same exact user experience, and it will automatically recognize and share that into the call as a content sharing stream. And so it basically alleviates some of those friction points that you might experience in just a standard Microsoft Teams call.
Gotcha. So is that kind of how you would say BYOM differs from BYOD? Is the fact that, like, when you do it, it just automatically goes to like whatever room you want to use, whether that's Teams?
So I would say BYOD, from the definitions that I've seen and worked on at Wayne House, we really talk about bringing your own device as being really just sharing of content or display. So that's more of our casting line of products. Conferencing and bring your own meeting requires you to be able to leverage and take control of the microphone, speakers, and camera, so that you can actually broadcast within a room and have the camera on the Rally Bar capture the whole conference room using the microphones that are in that space as well. And then, of course, providing echo cancellation and things from the service that you're using for the call. So it's really more about BYOD. If you think about it, is I just want to scale my screen up. BYOM is I want to scale my device to be the room, and I want to be able to use everything that happens to be installed in that space.
So it's like basically kind of taking the room and making it a movie theater almost.
Depending on what content you're showing and what you're doing with it, absolutely. It's really more of an iterative process. So if you think of BYOD as kind of being the basics of this, and there's also wired BYOD as well, where you just plug in through HDMI or USB-C. BYOM is kind of the next tier up on capabilities there. And again, there's both wireless flavors of it and then wired flavors as well.
Okay. So where would you say BYOM really fits into the workplace? Like, is there a specific use case in terms of industry? Like, does each industry differ? Would one be more well suited to BYOD or BYOM, for example?
I think it comes down to corporate culture more so than I would say any specific industry right now, because across most industries, you've got meetings of folks that are in a hybrid state. You've got some people who are in the office, some people are in a different office or working from home that day. And so really what it comes down to is finding those spaces that everybody comes together and trying to, as I said before, remove the friction that technology can typically bring into play. It's great if the room is outfitted with a bunch of gear, but if I don't know how to use it as the person on the team who has to start a call, then it's kind of all for nothing, because I'm not going to touch something that I don't know how to use, because the last thing I want is the admin or the IT guy coming after me after I get out of my meeting being like, you screwed up the room and we can't use it now. So it's really more about optimizing meeting spaces and the meeting experience to allow you to have a very consistent and seamless flow every space that you walk into. So I would say it's more about finding and resonating with the culture at hand. So small startups that are scrappy and trying to stretch a dollar, wired BYOD or wired BYOM tends to resonate really, really well. Reason being, I'm not at the place yet where I have a full IT staff. I probably only have 1 or 2 offices. I really just need to have the capability of somehow connecting to the camera in that meeting space and the display and a microphone and speaker system to be able to scale myself and get the meeting going. If you tend to be more in the enterprise space where you do have all of those things as far as IT staff and managed rooms, BYOD and BYOM are a great add-on to the system that you've already selected. Or if you've decided, I don't want to go with a room system, I'd like to be able to be as agnostic as possible, BYOD and BYOM really fit in that sort of a space. So there's certain organizations that tend to be a little bit more, shall we say, type A. Let's take like a law firm, for instance. You're going to be a little bit more traditional with some of the ways that you utilize technology and some of the workflows that you have in the space, but you still have folks who are trying to share their content. With a law firm, it's going to be documents. You're going to have, potentially a client in the room, as well as other lawyers who need to be able to share. And if you're trying to have everybody join a call for a specific UC vendor to share their content into the call, it's going to get a little bit clunky. Having something as simple as here's the button, plug it in, press it, you're good to go. And if you need to, change between folks, we've got multiple buttons so everybody can get their content up on the screen. Becomes a pretty seamless flow that folks are find to be very intuitive. It doesn't take much. You're not trying to learn a whole new user interaction for that one meeting. Now on the flip side, let's take like a tech company out of San Francisco where all of their offices look like they could double as like lounge spaces for the coolest club you've ever been to, kind of a deal. The folks are still doing the same exact sort of tenets from the meeting perspective. I need to be able to use the gear here, or I need to be able to host a call. And so again, having that capability of just, within 3 to 5 seconds sort of range, I think it's actually officially from Barco 7 seconds, to be able to scale your device into the room is a really powerful way of being able to empower the folks that use the spaces, but also cut down on your training costs, because you're just teaching them one interaction for every type of meeting that they might be doing, regardless of if that's an in-room meeting, a hybrid meeting, or you yourself are the only one that's in the office and everybody else is remote. So I would say it's a technology that fits for a lot of the different use cases that are out there. And it's more so just aligning, do I need wired versus wireless? And do I just need to cast something versus I really need to be able to leverage that camera capability? Okay.
So like, for example, if somebody was like if one business was a Microsoft Teams business, right? That's what they like to use. Is that kind of the driving factor of what you would say, like, hey, if you use Microsoft Teams, maybe you might want to consider this just because it makes your experience a little bit easier and a little bit more consistent.
Absolutely. Microsoft Teams has a fantastic product, and the Teams Rooms product is equally as fantastic. The folks over there, Ilya, Sanja, Albert, make an absolutely, stellar experience overall. But with folks being in the office only a couple of days a month, and software tends to update relatively quickly, folks get a little bit nervous when they walk into a room and they're not exactly sure what it is that they're going to have to work with to get their content up on the display. Or if they walk in and they go, oh, but this call happens to be a WebEx call, or this call happens to be a Teams call that we're starting with, but after this I have to go to a Zoom call. And that creates a little bit of consternation for folks when they don't have an IT guy sitting right outside of the room to be like, hey, come help me, Joe. Like, let's figure out how to make this next call work. So what we at ClickShare see is kind of a duality, where yes, you still want the ease of management and the ability to book the room and have all of the great features of a Microsoft Teams room solution. But on those situations where, hey, I need to use a different platform, or I just need to do something in room, and I don't want to have everybody join the call to be able to see this on their devices, it's very easy to say, here's a way to do this that doesn't require you to have to teach everybody every 3 months, once a software update comes out, what the interaction is, and they're able to, from a user experience, inherently just say, oh, I know that button gets plugged into my laptop and I press the button and then I don't have to do anything else. Everything's handled for me. So it's really more about just optimizing the experience for your people. So it comes down to really just trying to make it as seamless as possible for all the different use cases that happen in that space. But we're a big proponent of a dual approach, which is to say, have a room system, definitely use that as much as you can. Here's a great way for you to also be able to share content into those calls, or be able to run calls that are maybe not on that platform as easily and efficiently as possible.
Okay, awesome. So, Joel, do you have any questions about Barco that you want to go ahead and ask?
Do you guys do BYOB as well?
That's well, we would never do BYOB because if we're inviting you to an event, then that would be rude of us to make you bring your own. That would be, yeah. If anything, it would be more about, we provide you the beer if you come.
Yeah.
And at most of the shows and things that we're out at, I'm sure you guys have either been invited to or will be invited to, our InfoComm happy hour and things like that. We certainly do participate in those sorts of events as well. So we never expect you to bring your own. But if you do, save me one, because I'll definitely.
All right, deal. Well, the BYO, D, BYOM, it's ever evolving. So, I mean, where do you see the market in, like, say, 3 to 5 years from now?
So I think it's a lot of companies are trying to figure out how best to utilize their digital real estate. And what I mean by digital real estate is just all the different screens that you have across your workplace. So I think that BYOM is going to continue, and BYOD are going to continue to converge with the room systems and things that are out there, like with the announcement earlier this year from Microsoft about Crestron. And I'm seeing Parker making a comment here below here. Bring your own button. Yeah, you could potentially bring your own button, I guess, if we want to take that route. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. So where I would say the industry is heading is really around that convergence and being able to say, regardless of what the digital real estate is, whether you're in an open area sitting in the engineering section, or you're in a meeting space and you're trying to get work done, it should be the same interactions to be able to take control of that display, be able to share your content to that display, and be able to get down to work with your counterparts. So I feel that as we continue to move forward, there's going to be kind of this realization that this dual approach in the marketplace is actually what makes it easiest for the end user. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're all trying to solve for, is make folks' lives as efficient as possible when they're in the office or when they're trying to get work done, and really trying to remove the friction that usually comes with office tech versus your personal device. So I see, Microsoft Teams and Zoom and Google and WebEx continuing to grow their room installations. And I think you're going to see a similar curve with BYOD and BYOM. And I think you're going to see, as time goes on, more and more of that's going to become a Venn diagram where the center section or the center sliver of overlap between BYOM and room systems is just going to continue to grow larger and larger. Now, if I had a crystal ball and I could bet, I would not be working for another company. I'd be selling my predictions to everybody. But because I am not able to do that and don't have a crystal ball, it remains to be seen whether or not that comes to fruition. But as far as what I'm seeing in the market and talking to end customers and end users and adopters, their biggest thing is, I just need it to work. It just needs to work every time I walk in, and it's got to be as simple as possible because I don't have the resources to constantly be training and retraining my folks to get their work done during the day. So I think, really having something that is as easy as possible for somebody to come in, understand, and be able to leverage the tech is going to resonate with the market in the long term.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and the ClickShare, the actual ClickShare units that you guys have, it's very portable, small, and very sleek, and it just it kind of all works together. For your meetings, it's very subtle, not
Yes.
too much in a way, and it just it's easy to use, right?
We do a lot of hiding of the base units, so really all you see in the room is just the holder and the buttons, so that you can just pull that off, plug it in, and you're good to go. We also do have a software variation of ClickShare, which allows for you to download software to your personal device, so it'll recognize when you walk into a room which room that you happen to be in, and you're able to immediately connect with that base unit, so you don't even need a button if you prefer not to. I would say that the buttons are still, at this point in time, something to make sure you still have in the conference room, because if you have a guest or you have somebody who's not on your network that needs to share content, trying to download software and get that approval through their enterprise IT team and your enterprise IT team all within the a segment of for a meeting is pretty difficult. But I would say the form factors and things like that are all areas that we're exploring and trying to innovate with to drive more of that convergence of the conference room technology as well.
Trayvon would like to know, where can we find more content from Dan Roots?
Well, you can find plenty of articles that I've written over at futurumresearch.com, which was the company that bought Wayne House Research while I was there. And so a fair amount of my stuff is published there. I will also be publishing different thought leadership pieces and things through Barco and on LinkedIn, and certainly follow me on LinkedIn. That's where you'll see a lot of stuff, and anything that I do, I usually post there as well. I do have a Twitter, but I will completely admit that I'm pretty bad at Twitter. I have one. I do post things there every now and again, but tends to not be my primary means of communication out to the world. And then also you can find me in some of the work that I've done with most of the major companies that we've been mentioning here today. There's pieces out and web pages dedicated to some of the research and things that I've done for WebEx, for Owl Labs. Trying to think of some of the others off the top of my head here. Wasn't prepared for this question. But most of that you will find through my LinkedIn as well. So I would say connect with me, follow me. If you have any questions about stuff that you see in the market, I love to just talk tech and geek out. So by all means, reach out and start a conversation. And if you happen to see me at any of the shows coming up or at ISE, potentially walking around with these fine gentlemen here, please stop us and ask some questions.
Awesome. Well, Trayvon, there's your answer on where you can find more of Dan. So, Dan, just to round out the stream, we'll go ahead and get to know you just a little bit better. From what I understand, you're a little bit of a car guy.
Yes, that is definitely one of my big hobbies and passions. I will fully admit right now, I had to sell off all my toys to buy the house that I now own, but I'm looking to expand my garage again. I'm a huge fan of European cars, whether they're old vehicles as far as late 70s, 80s, things like that, or even some of the new ones and some of the electric variants that are coming out as well. I certainly have an appreciation for what the Asian market and Japan in particular has been able to do with their vehicles over the last 30, 40 years. American muscle, I appreciate. Not something that I'm probably putting in my garage anytime soon, but I certainly do appreciate the late 60s and early 70s from that genre as well. I've helped to organize and host some of the largest European car shows here in North America. A quick shout out to Wolfsgart, which is hosted in Vermont for Volkswagens, Audis, and Porsches, as well as Eurocracy, Waterfest, H2O. I've had, been involved with all of those organizers over the last 15, 20 years. I also helped start a wheel, tire, and suspension distribution company called Wheel Lab that's here in New England and still going very strong. I have an affinity for going fast, but I try at my age now to do it in a safe manner or on a closed track. Can't say that I always hold myself to that standard, but I try.
I can understand that one a little bit. I went from having an SUV to I just bought a Hyundai Veloster Turbo, so
Okay.
Not like the most sporty car in the world, but
No, but they
very
look very
different from an
sporty.
SUV.
Absolutely, much more of a go-kart to get around town than an SUV would be. And also, since those things came out, I mean, they have such a cool design to them. And I'm not sure if they still have the center exhaust, but I know when they first came out, they all had like a center exhaust in the back, and it looked like it was like a Porsche GTS model driving down the road. You're like, what is that? Like, oh, it's a Hyundai. Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But I have to say, their N performance line of vehicles have like really been pushing the game recently, and I know they've got that really, really cool concept that looks like it's straight out of like 1988 that they've been working on in the end performance side of things. And I'm not gonna lie, that interests me a lot. I'm a very big fan of like that late 80s styling right now, so I certainly would be interested around there. Though I think my most likely next purchase is probably a lightly used Porsche, like Cayman S sort of range. I'm not talking like turbos, guys. Can't afford that that yet, but hopefully down the line.
Do you have like a favorite class of car? Like, are you more of a just traditional sports car kind of guy? Do you like rally cars?
I would say I appreciate a lot of the different types of vehicles. I wouldn't say that I have one specific type that I'm like, oh, this is it for me. As far as driving goes, though, I do prefer sportier dynamics, stuff that's tight, things that can really, you go into some of the back roads up here in New England, something that can really carve the road. I very much am partial to manual over automatic. Don't get me wrong.
Save
DCT
the manuals.
and all these other transmissions are great, but there's nothing replaces going on like a great afternoon drive and being able to row some gears going down the road.
You sound like, do you like track your cars?
I have tracked my cars. I've had some show cars as well that were mostly just for show, shall we say. They used to get taken up and down the East Coast to different shows, and I would stay at home because I had to work. So the cars got to have more fun than I did. I would say tracking cars, though, is a ton of fun, but a really high cost of entry as time goes on. You run through a lot of tires doing track days.
I was going to say, yeah.
As well as clutches and brakes and things like that. When you start dealing with cars like, Porsches or anything in that sort, your track bill starts to rack up very quickly. So at this point, I'm more inclined to join track days that are hosted by, like Porsche of America or BMW of America, where I can drive somebody else's car and beat the back out of it and not have to take the bill home when I drive home.
That's probably a smart way to do it.
You mentioned you were you started, or you still have the wheel and suspension distribution place. I might, when we get off this, I might have to hit you up, email or give you a call because my suspension, my shocks are shot already. They're leaking. They've been for years. So I've been trying to replace them with a nice set of coilovers. So maybe I can, talk to you about that and pick your brain on that.
Send it along. Send me the specs of what you got. Nice. I am not an active member of the executive team there at this moment in time, just because it became a full-time job, and I could only give part-time at that point in time. And so, but I am still very close with the the CEO of the company, a longtime friend of mine. So I'd be happy to send that along and get you a good price.
Awesome.
Do you know what company you're going with? We talking like Bilstein, KW?
I have a 2008 as a sports sedan. I was looking into. I was doing a lot of homework, forums, and then the name that keeps popping up is BC Racing.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, they're a nice, reputable brand. They're reliable.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. So, you're in good company.
Okay, cool. So I'll probably start asking you about questions about that.
Well, already you've made a good choice because you're doing your research, and I think that's like the key. As with technology, like that is really the key to finding the right thing. There's a part for everyone at every budget price. It just comes down to really doing your research to make sure that you select what's the most comfortable for yourself. There's a few companies out there who really focus on the low end of the market and giving you a good bang for your buck, but probably not going to give you the most longevity. There are other companies where it's like, whew, this hurts having to order this. This is really expensive. And sometimes those parts are going to outlast the entire car. So you kind of want to find something in the middle where it's like, okay, I'm going to own this for another 5 years and I want it to run great for 5 years, but I don't necessarily want to empty my entire savings account or spend my vacation fund on replacing this. So I think you're going about it the right way, sir, and we'd be happy to help.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Dan, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we close out the stream?
I don't think so, guys. I think this has been a great time. I really appreciate you having me on. I really look forward to continuing to work together with you guys. And actually, maybe that's the one point to talk about is just that, BZB and Barco are alliance partners, and, our gear works together in different spaces. And so if you happen to be a fan of BZB and you're outfitting different environments with the gear, please make sure to give us a look over at Barco. There's an alliance page that shows you everything that's compatible and certified between the two companies right there. And you can easily figure out what makes sense so that you have the best meeting experiences as well as all the other workflows that you're going to have going on in that space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for plugging in yourself and a couple of our products. Like Dan mentioned, we do have 11 currently right now, probably working on more, but 11 that are certified and compatible with Barco. Went through a rigorous the whole testing phase. So we're really proud to be partnered with Dan and Barco. Everything from our flagship 4K AI auto tracking camera, BG Adamo series, to our new 4K auto framing video conference video bar, the BG Cyclops, and a few other cameras. So yeah, just go over to Barco's website. You can see our page there and all the compatible solutions from us. And
I'm pretty sure you can make it even easier. You can just Google BZB Gear and Barco, and our alliance page should pop up right there, just to save you a couple clicks of going through to find it. And I would say that this is all thanks to Johan Perot, who is always doing the testing and handling of this. But we take the Alliance program very seriously here at Barco, and we make sure that everything gets tested at least once a quarter in the program, and that it's tested with the latest software and firmware from both vendors, just because, as I'm sure you guys have experienced, sometimes things get updated. Next thing you know, things that worked for the last 3 years, no questions asked, suddenly come up with an error. So we try to make sure that we're staying ahead of that. And we greatly appreciate your participation in the program and look forward to continuing to spread the news and garner more adopted organizations between the two companies.
Yeah, I've never experienced that at all. Something just doesn't work after an update. Microsoft, what?
Yeah.
We'll be sure to also, include all the links for, either BZBGEAR on Barco, or even Dan's, where you can reach Dan, his LinkedIn page, any of his blogs or articles that he works on. We'll be sure to let all of you guys in on the where you can find all this info.
All right. Well, on that note, no, thank you for coming on. It was fantastic. And for those of you guys who are watching at home or in the office or wherever you guys are at, have a great weekend. If you're in Texas, see us next week in Austin at Texas Association of Broadcasters. And if not, you could always go the next week to Dallas after that, and we'll be in Dallas as well. So any of those, just go ahead and say hi. I'll be there with Matthew Allison from our team. And until next time, guys, have a fantastic weekend.